Did you come up from the South?
No, I was born here in Chicago.
But you have family that came up from the South?
I didn't have any family, a direct family in the South. My mother was born in North Carolina, and she came to Chicago many, many years ago. But I was born here, March 3rd, 1926. I was born at County Hospital.
Can you say that date again?
I didn't hear you.
Can you say that date again?
March 3rd, 1926.
I didn't want to make you too old. I just.
Oh. Are you trying to give me a compliment? I'll take that.
So did your mother relay any stories to you about life in the South, or when she came up north?
No, she really didn't. The only thing I can tell you is that when she came here, she worked in Montgomery wards, and at that time, those girls were called the Gibson girls, and that was her first job. And I suppose she didn't tell me a story, but I suppose that's when she met my father. But what I'm about is the genealogy of my mother's side of the family, and this would be the family tree of the Cobbs people. And according to the census of 1900, in June 1900, in Goldsboro, North Carolina, I'll give you this information. My grandfather's name is Needham Cobb. He was born August 1854. At the time of the census, he was 45 years old. His wife, my grandmother, Josephine Burnett, was born 1853. At the time of the census, she was 44 years old. My Aunt Julia was born in 1877. I don't have the month. My Uncle Frank was born 1878. He was 21 years old. My Aunt Mildred was born December 1885. At the time of the census was 15 years old. My Uncle Needham, named after my grandfather, was born 1887. He was 13 years old. My Uncle Joseph Albert was born 1891. At the time of the census, he was 9 years old. My mother, Sylvia, was born November 18th, 1889, was 11 years old. This family tree can be traced back to 1613. The first descendants were the Greens, Cobbs, Whitfields, Bordens, Lanes, Dudleys, and Bryans. But this is what I was told. Now, what do you want to ask me?
Wow. Who told you?
What did you say?
Who told you?
Well, a younger niece of mine, she looked it up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Wow.
What about your father?
Yeah, what about your father?
Well, what about my father? My father was born in Metropolis, Illinois, which is not too far from Kentucky. And from there, he migrated to, let's see, what part of Mayfield, Kentucky. He also was in Paducah and other parts of Kentucky that I don't really know about. My father's name was Jeff Keyes. My father's name was Frank Brown Keyes. His mother's name was Lizzie Keyes. And as far as I know, he was a migrant carpenter. And the first job he had when he came to Chicago was working at the United States Post Office. And after that, when he did marry my mother, she had 3 children. The oldest was Franklin B., named after his father, my sister Juanita, and myself, which is the younger of all the group. That's my story.
Cool. Did your father relate to you anything about the post office being a place where African American males could actually get a job?
Well, at that time, he was one of the first blacks. And only thing I could tell you about it, he had such a good reputation, they called him 88 because he was straight as the two eights. And that's where he got his name from. But he raised his family and gave us a good life because he had one of the best jobs that you could have at that time. Now, I couldn't tell you the date that my father married my mother because I really don't remember. But I'd have to look up some old papers.
So, is there anything you want to tell young people who don't know their history?
What I would like to tell the young people is that the older people will sit and tell you the story. We have to tell it to them over and over again because they won't know our history if we don't tell the story, because we are the ones that have the background. And the research I was trying to do, I didn't have to do because of this niece of mine. But it is very important for us to know who we are, where we came from. And in order to know where you're going, you need to know your background. That's what I tell the young people.
Cool. You were born in Chicago in 1926.
That's right.
Did you experience, so you must have witnessed the influx of African Americans to the city. Did you see anything change with lots of black people coming into the city?
Well, I didn't see too much of a change. As a child, I guess I was just busy growing up and looking at things and enjoying my life and being a child, because I didn't have all this stuff that they have now to keep my focus on things that didn't relate to what was important, like family, having a good life, and just enjoying childhood. But I can tell you one thing I witnessed, 1933, the Century of Progress, down where, what is it? What is this place I'm trying to think of? Navy Pier. And the things that we saw, things that were animated, somewhat robotic. At that time, I wasn't thinking in terms of that would lead to some of the high-tech stuff of today. But it was very interesting. And I'll always remember the Century of Progress because I didn't even have an idea of all those new things that have come about. The technology, it was just amazing.
Do you remember the Sky Ride? Sky
Ride?
Yeah.
No, I didn't ride the Sky Ride, okay. But I remember getting in one of those boats on Lake Michigan. It was rather exciting. It was a lot of fun. It was just so much stuff to see. I think I was just overwhelmed because at that time we were more or less confined to our own community.
Right. So how was the atmosphere down at the Century of Progress between blacks and whites? Like, how did you guys exist together?
Well, we did. We just, we just people moving around in a crowd. Nobody was harassing anybody. We were just out. I think everybody seeing what was progress at that time, they were just overwhelmed and excited too. So nobody was bothering anybody. And for me, as far as racial discrimination, only thing I could say that I witnessed in Marshall Field, black people at that time couldn't try on hats. They wouldn't let the women wear the hats. And of course, there were no black salespeople. And nobody really insulted you, but you were treated coldly. Even as a young child, you would know that there was racial discrimination.
Cool. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I went to DuSable High School. I went to Wilson Junior College. I went to Chicago Teacher College. And what is now, what's this school over there? Oh, God.
Chicago State?
No, it's not Chicago State. It's Kennedy King. Yeah. And so I've seen a lot of changes in that area. And as far as the shopping district on 63rd and Halsted, it used to be a wonderful place. It has changed so drastically. And I think the problem is certain parts of the city where we live, we're just not getting, let's see, what is the word I want to say? We're just not getting new buildings. We're not getting city service, things that we should have. Some things have improved, It's slow. It's coming, but I think it should have been here. Anything else you want to know?
Looking back at it. About the South. So your family, you were born here, and your family was here. Did you guys ever, your parents ever take you back to visit anybody?
Well, I've been back to Louisville, Kentucky, but yes, and I've been to North Carolina 2 or 3 times, and things have changed there. You have all the expressways and the malls and all the new modern lifestyles, but nothing to compare to Chicago.
Louisville. So your father's family is in Louisville? Or?
What did you say?
Is your father's family in Louisville?
Those people have all died out.
Okay. So.
The oldest person that I remember that recently passed was 94. But most of them were kind of, long livers. Yeah.
Nice. Anything else?
Well, what do I want to say? Anything else? Well, I would say the first residence that we had was 2921 South Wabash. So I do know a little bit about the city, but I have a lot to learn yet about the city. Steady growing, it's steady expanding, and I'm trying to grow with it. And that's my story.